right, thank you for tuning in once again for another episode of Bold Expressions. Today I'm joined by Mr. Sylvester Taylor II. He is the director of, and this took me a minute to try to make sure I got it right. IBEW NCA Diversity Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
That's correct. So, I am a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW. And in March last year, my union and my contractors association, which is the National Electrical Contractors Association, they appointed me to be to spearhead diversity for our union and for our contractors association. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers go from Canada to Puerto Rico, from Washington State to Maine, and this position is the first one in the country that was created.
And how did you initially get that position?
Through failure.
Explain.
So I actually applied for another position.
Okay.
That was the director of our apprenticeship. And when I applied, I found out the director is going to resign, and he's going to retire. And when I applied, 8 more people applied. So they whittled it down to 3, and then they hired a headhunting company, and they gave us a battery of tests and psychological evaluations. And they came back with the recommendation that somebody else should be the director of our apprenticeship. And I was heartbroken because I currently sit on the Fire Safety and Standards Commission, where we are in charge of bringing in recruits and setting a curriculum for all the firefighters for St. Louis County. I was on the Blackjack Fire Protection District Board, where we were in charge of all construction dollars. We were in charge of hiring and firing, and we had a $12 million budget. I helped set the budget for the state as a state legislator. So for me, this only seemed like a natural fit. Interviewing apprentices, setting curriculum, setting a budget for the apprenticeship, it only seemed natural. So when they didn't pick me, I was heartbroken. But the last part of this battery of tests, it was a psychological evaluation. So I talked to her for probably about an hour and a half, give or take. And I thought it went good. So when my business manager, who's like the president of my union, he called me in and he asked me to go to lunch. And I said, okay. So I get in his car and he said, tell me about Rebecca. And I'm like, okay, who's Rebecca? And he said, that was the psychologist that interviewed you. I said, oh, we had a great conversation. And he said, that's what she said. And she said, we'd be crazy if we didn't make a spot for you. So we're going to create this position called Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I said, well, what am I supposed to do? What am I doing? And he said, I don't know. You're going to set the footprint for this. So since I've started last March, there are 2,800 IBW locals in North America, and 6 of them have now put a director of diversity on since I started. So we're doing some really good stuff.
That's good. That reminds me of something said before. It's like when God does something for you, He'll put it in a way so that it fits nobody else but you.
Right.
The thing you was looking for. Right.
You know what's for you is for you, and I tell you. So last year, it was just amazing. I don't even know how I got there. Last year was just fantastic. I'm so happy. So, in because I belong to this International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, there is a group that is inside of the IBW called the Electrical Workers Minority Caucus, and we're made up of members that really push the IBW to be more inclusive, to be more diverse, and then we go out and we help in the community, talk about some of the great jobs that in construction and inside the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So in January, the Electrical Workers Minority Caucus, we have an annual convention over Dr. Martin Luther King Day weekend. And they gave me the Leadership Award for the year. And I thought that was pretty cool, right? I did. You got to do work because that's what needs to be done, and you have to have a heart to serve, and not to be served.
All right.
So that happened. It was pretty cool. In February, I belong to New Salem Missionary Baptist Church, and in February, my church installed me as a deacon. I cried like a baby.
Ain't nothing wrong with a man having a good cry.
No. So in March, I got my dream job. In April, I currently I was elected to the Hazelwood School District Board of Directors. I got elected by the people. Man, it just so the whole year was, and I would wake up and I would say to myself, Brother Leggett, God, I don't know what you got in store for me today, but whatever it is, I'm going to do your will. So last year was incredible, and this year's starting out pretty good.
And forgive me, everybody, I got off task. Brother Taylor and I, we attend to the same church, New Salem Missionary Baptist Church. Pastor Michael Franks is the pastor. Of course, I just said Pastor Michael Franks. But, I had both him and Lady Lily on. I had Mike Jr. on recently. But as you started going, I forgot all the other accolades that you have. And I saw that on board for, what'd you say, Hazelwood School District? What was the position?
I'm the treasurer, but I got elected 2 years ago.
Okay.
No, last year.
Like you said last year. And I think I remember when I was getting my security officer license, I remember seeing you up there on the blackjack for the board for the fire department. And I was like, yeah. And I was walking by and I stopped. I went back. I was like, I know him. I was like, hold up. But yeah, you are currently running for election for the Missouri House of Representatives. That would be in August of this year, correct? Previously served from 2011 to 2014. You also ran a couple years ago? Is that correct?
I did. I got from the 2010 census, it literally, when the new map came out, it literally drew my neighborhood out of my state rep district and drew me in with someone else, just my neighborhood. So I ran, I got sued. It was just a mess. But I'm gonna tell you, from the 2020 census, from the map that they came out with in 2022, it drew me right back in.
And just see, that's what I'm talking about when I say I get off topic, because some stuff, because I'll have stuff and then somebody will say something and I'd be like, I can't just let that go. If y'all notice that, He was already in the district. Then randomly, they drew his neighborhood out the district.
Just my neighborhood.
And then years later, he's right back in. So there's always these arbitrary imaginary lines that they draw. I want to say it's not redlining.
Yeah, it is.
That is redlining,
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
and that is what they do to take away political power from minorities, people of color, lessen our political power, so that and also different things, so where we end up getting less funding for schools and other things that we need.
Well,
And
I can tell you
yeah,
that in 2010, in the House of Representatives, we had the largest women and people of color class in Missouri state history.
mm,
And in 2 years, they drew all the black folks in with other black folks. How does that happen?
right. Unless it's and there could be no way it happens but deliberately. These
All
are
right.
man-made maps. It's not like something happened, and it's not like you're looking at a weather map and some winds come and they hit a certain area and they don't hit another area. No, you have a choice on whether or not to draw these. It's like, okay, so what happened between now and then that made you want to redraw the map? And they could never give you they can never, let me put it this way, they can never give you an adequate answer that doesn't insult your intelligence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm going to tell you something. For me, I don't care what I did.
Right.
For me, I'm here and I'm here right now. And I can't wait. August 2nd can't get here quick enough. Because I like my chances
Mm-hmm.
and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that I would love to see done. So we're just gonna keep working and let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. And before we get any more into your political career and other things that you've done, I want you to tell the people more about yourself, if you're so inclined.
Okay, my name is Sylvester Taylor II. I am 56. I don't even know where the time goes. I have three daughters, Melissa, Sydney, and Christine. CJ, as we affectionately call her. I have 7 grandkids: Taylor, Caitlin, Austin, Robert, Riley, Rome, and Raylan. I've been a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers for 32 years. I've been married to my wife for 30 years. I grew up in Kinloch. I live in Blackjack, and I've always had a heart of servitude. I've always wanted to be involved in my community, and whatever I could do to help my community, that's what I do. So we do a mentoring session at the Division of Youth Services. Everybody here is committed to development, and it's a way for us to talk to these young men and see if we can't just literally change the direction that they were on their boat. And if we could just change it just a little bit and give it a little push and point them in the right direction. And so between that, I do a coat drive for children's homes. I've been doing that for probably 18, 19 years. So this year we topped 11,000 coats that we've given out to needy kids. This year we included the Ferguson Florissant School District and the Hazelwood School District. I'm a deacon at my church.
I can see
Director
how
of the
much
dance
pride you
choir.
have in that. Just the way that you light up saying it's like that.
It means a lot to me.
Mhm.
I am the superintendent of Sunday school. That means more. That's that's my baby. So if you guys, I don't know who listening, if you guys uh, are so inclined to learn just a little bit, to get a little bit closer to God, there's no way. There's a three-legged stool to this, right? You can't get closer to God without learning His Word. You can't learn His Word and mistreat His people, and you can't mistreat. You can't treat His people, and it doesn't. It doesn't. It's not. It's not rooted in love.
Mm.
So, if you're so inclined, New Salem Missionary Baptist Church, 1905 Arlington. Sunday school starts promptly at 9 o'clock, and service starts at 10. So we'd love to see you.
All right. I like that the three-legged stool thing. It reminds me of something slightly. Uh, think about D.L. Hughley. I like listening to him. He mentioned something about you can't treat people a certain way. You can't treat people. You can't treat people. Sorry, you can't treat people a certain way unless you don't view them the same as you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a thing of like, if you know have His Word and you have His people, if you truly are of God, and we have some people who say they are, but yet and at least from what I've learned, I'm not a scholar. I'm not even going to profess to know as much about the Bible as I should. But as far as I know, we are all considered God's children. So no matter what somebody's position is or what they're doing, they're all God's children. So if you say that you follow God's word and you mistreat His children, then you must not view them as His children. You must view them as something else. You can't treat people a certain way unless you view them as lesser in some kind of way.
Or you may not be God's children.
And that's the thing. It's like there's a disconnect somewhere, and that's the rub. It's like for you to look at another human being as being lesser, then that must mean that there's something wrong with your connection with whatever it is that you're saying, that you're reading, that you're understanding. Because you can't say that I love God, as I said, you can't say that you love God who you've never seen and hate and mistreat your brother who you see every day.
Absolutely. You can't get it.
Yeah. But so you told us about DACA, told about your role. What made you interested in politics?
You're either at the table or you're on the menu. So
Yes.
when the decisions are made in my neighborhood, the decisions are made in my community, decisions are made in my city, decisions are made in my state, I want to be at the table. Stop fussing and start working. Roll your sleeves up and let's get after this. You don't like the way something's happening in your neighborhood? Stop fussing about it and do something. It is imperative. Look, we can't move our community forward when you go one way, I'm going the other, and you're opposed to moving, and I'm opposed to moving. How do we come forward? It doesn't happen. Can't happen. So if you want your fire department, when they get off the truck and respond to you, you want them to look like you. When they go visit schools and do career fairs, and they hop off the truck, and nobody on the truck looks like you. Nobody's a woman. They all look like Europeans. How do our young men and women know that opportunity exists for them? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So who's in charge of that? I found a way that I can have a hand in that by being a director of the fire district. You don't like the way the police are treating you, and you don't like the heavy-handedness in our community, then do something about it. Figure out where the police board, the police commission, figure out who's appointing and go after. there are things that we can do to help our community. Our community wasn't always like this. It wasn't. And we have to stop putting people in office and people that we think are once they're there, they're there. We don't hold them accountable, nothing. They don't do nothing. They don't help anybody. You never hear from them until it's election time. Mm. I'm not that dude. I'm not him. I'm all over the place. Sometimes I think I'm a little too thin. But I've been doing this, what I do in the community, before I ever got on. I've been doing it because I think it's the right thing to do. And what made me decide to run for office, to run for this office, is the person that I'm running against. His family has held his seat since 1972. His father-in-law had it. His mother-in-law had it. His wife had it. Now he's got it. And tell me one piece of legislation that they filed to help our community. That's when you're there to be served and not to have a heart of service. So I have taken it upon myself to ratchet it up just a little bit more and to be in a position to help my community as much as I can. When I was a legislator, I got a phone call from a wheelchair-bound person. And they told me that, Representative Taylor, I need your help. And I said, what's going on? And she said, West Florissant doesn't have, she's in a motorized chair. Mm-hmm. When I live close enough to Walmart on West Florissant that I can drive my chair there. I don't have to take my car because it's so much for me to get out of the car. So I can just drive my chair. The problem is when I cross the street, I have to drive in the street because none of the sidewalks are handicap accessible. So at the time, the county executive, that was Charlie Dooley. We worked with Charlie, the state, and MoDOT to put ramps on the sidewalk so people like her, citizens like her, could use what their God-given right is to do. And we did that in less than 2 years. I'm telling you that this family has been in office since 1972 and can't hang their hat on nothing. Except for family legacy. I get it, but we're gonna do something different.
I can respect that. And you're right, there is a difference between, as you said, being there to serve as opposed to being served, because I've always been confused by, I guess, the reverence some people have and some people expect to have when they hold an office that is essentially, at least from what I know, public school system, so education. So I was under the impression that the title was civil servant. Mm-hmm. Servant is in the title. The election, all that stuff, is basically a job interview. I think I'm good at this job. I would like you to hire me for this job. Now, I don't know of any other position to where you ask somebody to pick you for a job. Then once you get hired, you start telling the people what to do, what you are, what you ain't going to do, and you act as if they owe you for you hiring them. It's like, no, that's not the way it works. It's like, you guys, you asked us to vote you in there. We got you in there. Now these are things that, number one, you said you would do, and we're bringing other issues to you because this is part of the job that you said you wanted. And a lot of times, you do have people who are there just for show, who say, as you mentioned it, the only thing that they have to back their name is legacy.
Absolutely.
And legacy and tradition, the way it is normally used is shorthand for it's been around for a long time. It doesn't mean that it works. It doesn't mean that it actually benefited anybody. It just means that we've been doing this for a long time. It doesn't even mean it's the best way to do it. It just means it's been around.
There's an old fable. So my sister came home from Houston. They lived in Houston for a while, and they came home for Christmas. And no, they moved back from Houston to St. Louis, and they were having Christmas dinner at their home. So my sister was putting the ham in the oven, and right before she put the ham in the oven, she cut the ends off. So I said, "What are you doing?" She says, "Well, I cut the ends off the ham." And I said, "Well, why are you doing that?" She says, "Well, I got that from Mom." So I called my mother. "Hey, Mom, what's up?" "Hey, listen, I'm over at Lily's house. And right before she put the ham in the oven, she cut the ends off." And my mom says, "I don't know why she do that. I got that from my mother." So I called my grandma. "Hey, Grandma, hey, how you doing?" "Hey, I'm over at Lily's house, and she cut the ends off the ham right before she put it in the oven, and she got it from Mom. Mom got it from you. Why do you do it?" And she said, "Baby, I don't know why they do it, but the size of the ham I like, it won't fit in my roasting pan. So I have to cut the ends off to make it fit." So just because you've been doing something for decades doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do.
Hey, and just like most things, you end up doing it so long. Number one, the people who are currently doing it don't even know the reason why I got started in the first place.
Absolutely.
Can't tell you a tangible. There are so many. Um, to date this podcast a little bit. Recently, was it yesterday? Was it Yeah, yesterday. Yet another, and we keep having to say yet another because it is what it is. It's yet another mass shooting in a school. We just had a mass shooting the week before, and we keep having the same things as the same, like, well, now it's not the time to talk about gun issues. Now it's not the time to talk about this. We keep hearing that, and yet we keep saying it's like, okay, well, when is it time? Because we've been doing the same thing for a long time, and it's not working. So why is it? So how is it that we're expecting something different to happen? Why are we expecting a different outcome when we're not making any changes? And we hear people saying like, "Well, yeah, we're going to go after criminals." Like, yeah, we got that. I thought we were doing that anyway. It's like, okay, well, can we make it harder for certain people to get guns? They don't want to do that. They say all these things about mental illness. Okay, you guys, have you set up anything? Have you come up with any laws, any things on the books? As you say, any things on the books. I have a shorter podcast that I do besides this, just called Random Thoughts. It's supposed to be just one single topic that I have, and I just talk about it for a second. And what I put out today was where we spend our money. It is about how we've sent, I won't say billions, but we've at least sent 30 something million. I won't say it's larger than that, but a great amount to Ukraine. We've sent a lot of money to Ukraine. Yet we have them arguing about canceling student debt, which will benefit people here. we have them argue about raising minimum wage will help the people here. They say they care about the people, yet the things that will actually go to help benefit and easing troubles of people here, they don't want to do that. They don't want to push those efforts forward. Um, I saw a tweet. Somebody was talking to Senator Joe Manchin, and he said, "I will do anything in my power possible to, help with, different things, gun laws, what have you." And somebody said, "Okay, well, would you make efforts to get rid of the filibuster so that we don't need these people who we know aren't going to help to just push things forward that's actually going to help people?" He said, "No, I'm not going to do that." Then you're not willing to do anything for the people.
Woke will stop it. I'm willing to do anything but that.
Right. And it's always interesting. It's like, I will do anything. When you do this, no, then you're not willing to do anything. Then that means there are some things, and it's funny how in the instant you just see that to where it's like, oh, you're performative. This was supposed to be a good sound bite for you until somebody actually puts your feet to the fire, and then you show that you aren't here to do anything but to line your pockets or to look good until, as you say, re-election.
Whenever I ran on whatever it is I was running for, my game plan when I got elected was to change perceptions and to open doors that have been closed to us.
Mm-hmm.
In a nutshell. So, like I said, I've been an electrician for 32 years, and I've got friends that are plumbers and pipe fitters, that are painters, that are iron workers and sprinkler fitters, but ain't a whole lot of us that do that. So my game plan was to expose the kids of the Hazelwood School District to jobs in the building trades. And we've done a good job of that. So when they come out of school, for those that are not going to go to school, they can find a career working with their hands. My goal, I'm a member of a group called the Infinite Scholars. And the Infinite Scholars in 2004 started a college scholarship program where they pay for the schools to come down, and then the schools write the scholarships. In 2004, it netted area kids in St. Louis about $6 million in scholarships. Okay, so the Hazelwood School District never participated. I've been doing this since 2004. The Hazelwood School District never participated until this year. Because this year we pushed. And we moved and we made opportunities. And this year, it netted the kids in the Hazelwood School District an additional $500,000 in scholarship. That's progress.
Right.
We have kids now that are teed up, waiting to get into the building trades. And I know that's generational. Because you do what you're supposed to do. Not only can you do something, but you can help your kids and you can help their friends, and you can be involved in there's a whole lot, there's a multitude of doors that can open if you just apply yourself. And me personally, I'm not the kind of person that I don't sweep up the breadcrumbs behind me. I leave the loaf.
I like that one. That's an interesting thing to hear, because you do hear about people who once again, for different people, you will hear about people who rose to their positions, people who look like us who rose and who made it and got to a certain position. And then once they get there, they say, well, I did it, you should do it. So all the stuff that helped me to get here, I'm going to take those away because you can do it by yourself. And, for somehow to end up trying to make it harder for anybody else, or they use that they're, how do I put this? That their experience succeeding should be everybody's experience succeeding, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because I didn't have the hardships that somebody else may have had, then I don't believe that those hardships exist. So all these other nets and whatever, all these different things to scholarships or whatever, that's just entitlement. That's just stuff. But as you said, that's generational. Those are kids who probably didn't see a way into college or didn't see a way to further their education, before that. A lot of people, you know, a lot of times people don't do stuff not just because they don't want to, because they don't have a desire to. A lot of times they just don't have the means. They don't have the, um, not just the means. Sometimes they're not even able to see the vision because, as you mentioned earlier, with the with even the fire department going to different schools and having kids see firemen and women that look like them, if you never see it, then it's even hard. What year was it? I want to say I remember watching. Was it Kings of Comedy? Came
Okay.
out, was it 07, 08? We were still making jokes about a black president because it never crossed our mind that we would actually get one, and then we actually got one. It's like, because we still couldn't see it. It's like we make jokes about it. We was like, oh, this that, because even then it was like, oh, they're never going to let this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are kids today who, for them, it's like, well, yeah, we had Barack Obama. To them, it's not an issue of, oh, this crazy thing that happened. They're like, oh no, yeah, we know something. We grew up with it. So that means a lot when you can see, when you're able to, when you see something tangible, when you see politicians out there actually working and trying to make strides, when you see them more than just the election year, then it does give you the impression that they actually care about you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it makes me think about, and I think about this often. Pastor Frank says, like, before people care about what you know, they want to know that you care. It's like, you could be telling me to, trying to tell me, whatever. That's great. It's like, but if I feel like that you don't actually care, then I don't care about what you have to say.
That's a short conversation.
Right.
That's a short conversation.
Yeah.
And I know this because I've known Pastor Franks quite a long time, and he's the reason I'm at New Salem. He not only is he the reason I'm at New Salem, there's no other man on the planet, dead or alive,
Mm.
that had more to do with what kind of man I turned out to be than Michael Anthony Franks. Um, I didn't, I didn't, I didn't idolize my father, but I envied Mike.
Mm.
And so if you see Michael Anthony Franks Sr. on Tuesday, he's the same guy on Tuesday as he is on Thursday. He's the same guy Sunday, except when he's preaching. That's a whole nother thing. I don't. But he is the same firm, loving guy, no matter when you see him. And I wanted to be just like that. So our deliveries are different, and our pathways are different. But I love him tremendously. That is my dude. And you can say anything you want to do to me, but you can't touch him. You better not. You better not. But you know, so his pattern of servitude is kind of where I got it. I just took it to another level.
And that's I'm sure he'd be knowing Pastor, he'd be touched to hear you say that, and he'll take the opportunity to turn it around and say something about you. He would.
You truly know him. You truly know him.
He will switch that hot seat in a minute. But yeah, Pastor special. He is the kind of person who I don't know how to put it. He makes you want to make him proud, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the fact that the fact that when somebody genuine has faith in you and speaks certain things on you, you don't want to do anything that will kind of take that or not live up to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you know, they are not just because he married my sister.
Yeah.
But I really, I envied their walk. My mother, my mother did more to get us here. I mean, I don't know how we all got here. All my brothers and sisters are relatively successful, extremely successful. You know, to be honest, I'm the runt of the litter. But I didn't marry somebody like my mother. I married somebody like my sister. So to have that, and then to marry him, and then see their walk and how they did it, it's pretty cool. It was for me. So I conduct myself. I conduct myself like this. The last thing I want is to walk into my church, walk into my family's cookout, and have my family bow their head at me because I messed up. Not because I took a bad vote, but because I made bad decisions.
I've been thinking about and trying to talk about the difference between those two a lot recently. It's like those are two completely different things that we sometimes will put together. There's a difference between making a mistake, which is I thought, the trash comes on Wednesday. No, it comes on Tuesday. Okay, I made a mistake. It's another thing with I know this is wrong and I'm still going to decide to do it.
That's a choice.
Right. Like those are two different things. And sometimes, oh, sorry, go ahead.
They, those are choices. You know, my pops would tell me, he would say, making bad decisions is a choice. Anger is a choice. Being mad is a choice. You decide what you're gonna be mad at. He would say, if a cat walked by and peed on your shoe, what would you do? I'd kick it. What would you do if it was a lion? You choose what you're gonna get mad at. You choose how you're gonna react to things. You choose if you're going to zig or zag. Those are choices, right? So what you can do is it, and if it's a choice, you can pick whatever choice you want to pick. What you can't pick is your consequences.
Right.
You can do whatever you want to do, but you can't pick how society, your community, and your family reacts to what it is you did. You can't pick that. So for me, I conduct myself a certain way. I conduct myself with a certain type of behavior. Because the last thing I want is to walk into sales and Brother Carl and Sister Juanita say, "What was you thinking?" I don't want that. So the best thing for me to do is not put myself in that situation.
And the funny thing about that is that sometimes some people say like, well, I don't want to live my life fake. I want to. It's like that's not being fake. I know how I want to carry myself, and I'm going to do the best that I can to do that. People have this. As you'll ask my wife, this is one of the things that bugs me to no end. People have this thing of being real means either being loud, rude, or in some ways, or as I say, unapologetic. Unapologetic doesn't necessarily mean that you're out to insult people. Like let's say they're they'll tell you something harshly, be like, well, I'm just being real. It's like, well, nobody asked you for your real opinion. Nobody asked you for whatever it is that you're talking about. Like you're not being real. You just want the excuse to be rude or to be dismissive of other people around you. And you don't want, it's actually to me kind of cowardly because those are the same people who will cry about them being real and then society responding to their quote unquote realness. Well, I'm just being me. Okay. Well, this is me responding to you being you. You can be you, but I don't deal with people that act the way you do. So you are free to act the way that you want to. And I am free to respond accordingly and say that I don't have to condone it or whatever, you're grown, but I also don't have to put up with it.
Absolutely.
That's another thing. Like I'm, trying to I don't want to say reconstitute, but just reset my mind about different things, such as like forgiveness. You can forgive somebody, and I posted this before. You can forgive, you can forgive somebody, but that does not mean that you have to let them back into your life.
You could. I I'm cut to forgive. I'm cut to love.
Right.
What I'm not cut to do is be stupid.
Hey.
What I'm not cut to do is have somebody say they're going to represent my community and don't represent my community. And we just supposed to sit back and let them do what they want to do.
Right.
I'm just not cut from it. So I am cautiously optimistic about all the things that are in front of me. I'm ecstatic about what God's doing in my life and how He is opening doors that I couldn't get to move and closing doors that I kept open for a reason.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. I don't know what's in store for me. I can tell you that whatever happens on August 2nd, on December 15th, on April 11th, I'm going to love God. I'm going to love His people, and I'm going to do His work.
Amen.
I promise you that.
And that is that that's I don't even know where to go from that. Like there's really nothing else you can do. Like I had more questions. I don't even want to. I wasn't want to ask nothing else. Like that was a fire closer. But before I let you go, I did want to ask just a couple different things about your time when you did serve. Uh, as far as what were some things that you came up against that you weren't expecting, versus what were some things that um, well, versus some things that you came across that you didn't even know to expect.
I didn't know at that level of government that hatred was breeding.
Mm.
I didn't know at that level of government that people still see you as the N-word, no matter what you
Mm.
do. But I also made some really cool friends that I still have to this day. I served with Mayor Tashara Jones.
Okay.
We served in the House together. The Honorable Judge Mike Colonna, he and I still talk. John Rizzo, who is the Senate Minority Leader, we're still good friends. Jake Hummel, who was president of the AFL-CIO for Missouri, really good friend. Just so Senator Carla May, I served with some really, really cool people that I hope those relationships will carry. Uh, I also learned that just because they say they believe in God, that don't necessarily mean their actions are God driven. So I have to keep that in consideration on my next run. And I know how to navigate. I spent 2 years trying to navigate. I think I got what it
I think you do too. So what? So when you did come across some of those people who you say may have said they serve God, but they don't. People who see you as less than. How did your faith help ground you or help you through those times?
I'm going to say I kept my distance, and I didn't let their opinion about me or their opinion when they looked at people that when they looked at people like me change me. I didn't. I Everything I did, I still spoke. Good morning. How are you, Representative? And I kept it pushing. It does not, just because they stupid, it don't necessarily mean you got to be stupid too. It didn't change me. It enhanced me. And so for me, uh, that's what I look at moving forward. Look, I told you I do this mentoring program.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell young men all the time that life ain't fair. Fair is what happens in a small town in the summertime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the 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 trials and tribulations that life takes you through, it's like poker. You don't have to keep the cards, right? In the situation you're in, you don't have to stay there. You choose to stay there. If you want something different, the world's not going to change. You're going to have to. And change only happens when you're willing to be uncomfortable. Nothing happens when you stay pat. Your hand doesn't get better when you keep the cards. So if we want different, and I wanted different, uh, I had to be different. I had to love those people from a distance. The younger Sylvester would have got with him. That's not what we do now. There's a rules in place to handle it. So we just handle a little different.
And to show the maturity and, just the growth, and to take it back to what we were talking about earlier, or just the things like there's consequences. Had you got at them, you could have not only it would have just emboldened them and people like them. And
hey, look at him. Look, right. You see what he. Yeah.
And so then that would have made it harder for you to do anything of substance for the people who you say that you're there for. There's a closing I have that I got from my late father. Don't be so busy proving your point that you forget your purpose.
Oh, I love it.
I close out every episode with that.
Don't be so busy proving your point that you forget your purpose.
Right. My wife ended up stealing that from me, and she got it. I think she has it somewhere in here. I was like, you just gonna steal my daddy stuff. I'm like, all right. But it's because I remember telling him a story about like some police brutality, and I was just like, this is just so messed up. He's like, it is. He's like, but what was his purpose? And like his purpose was to go get his kids. It was this thing about this cop. No, this father going to get his pick up his kids. I guess somebody thought he was suspicious, or the cops was following him, and they asked him who he was. They ended up tasing him in front of his kids, whatever. He's like, I'm not saying that they're right. However, his purpose was to go get his kids. Like, if all it took was for this, like, once again, not saying that they're right, he could have did this, got his kids, and gone. He's like, now he's traumatized, and they're traumatized. He was trying to prove a point about whatever to the cops, but his purpose was to do this. And when he told me that, and that hit me, and so that's why I end everything with that. And we see it so often. The slap heard around the world. Will Smith, his purpose was to go there, potentially win an Oscar, represent not just him, but the Williams family, the other people in the film. But because of one incident, and as you said before, we have a choice on how we choose to be. He can be angry all you want to. But that was a long walk up that stage he made. You made a choice to do that, to prove this one point. And even in proving that point of supposedly protecting his wife, he took the focus off protecting her and more about himself. So even in trying to prove his point, he kind of lost that. When his purpose, and when he got up there and did the speech, nobody cared about the movie. Nobody cared about anything else. The only thing anybody talked about, the only thing anybody was focusing on, was what he did.
Yeah.
It only takes one thing for people to forget anything else. All of a sudden, he's no longer nice guy Will. No, now all of a sudden it's like, oh well, he's laughing and joking in this, but he slapped somebody. All of a sudden, all this other stuff is gone because of one bad decision.
Yeah.
Lost the purpose of what he was supposed to do to prove a point that ultimately was pointless.
Yeah.
And I try to think about that and apply it. Like, is there a point? As you know, my son Daniel, excuse me, he's on the autism spectrum, and as you know, you had 3 kids. That sometimes you have to pick and choose your battles. It's like, I know I'm trying to do this. I can fight with them right now about this, or I can let it go and fulfill my overall purpose of what it is I'm trying to do. Like, what is more important? As I heard somebody say, how right do you want to be? How bad do you want to be right? I even think about it. I try to think about it more often. with issues with my wife. It's like how right do I want to be?
Mm.
I could have a point about something. I could be completely right. It's like, but okay, if I push me being right, that's either going to make her feel bad, it's going to put her in the mood, it's going to put me in the mood, and then whatever it is that we want to do, whatever family time we want to have, is not going to happen because I had a point to make.
Is that the place? Is that the place you want to plant your flag in the mountain?
Right? Or as I say, is that the hill you want to die on?
Yeah, I get it.
You know, and you hear a lot of people, it's like, well, you know, I had to do it. Like, really? You had to? Like, what would you want me to let it? It's like I'm just not about what I want to do, but is this really when? And it's one of those things when you're retelling your war story and you get to what everything was all about. Are you going to have that thing to where people go, really? It's like that's you did all that for this? It's like that's I thought it was something, you know, important. It's like, all right, it's like, hey, this, and you know how our people go. It's like, hey, man, that's you. That's
To you.
yeah, that's I wouldn't let that be me, but that's you. Hey, that must be how you was raised. But hey, that's how you do. But what were some things that you wish you would have done differently as far as your run and as far as running and serving? What were some things that you wish you would have done differently?
I wish I would understand the build process.
Yeah.
Uh, I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't. I wouldn't have state. I wouldn't have state. I wasn't statesman enough to push it across the finish
Hmm.
line.
And when you say statesman, you mean being able to work it politically or
Yeah.
okay.
So typically, when you file for legislation, when you file legislation, they assign it to a committee. And I didn't. I didn't court my bill. I didn't baby my bill. I didn't walk it. So I just turned it in, and the bill's good enough on its own. You know. So although I know differently now,
All right.
and I would nurture relationships more with people that don't look like
Okay.
me. And yeah, those are two things that if I had to do it all over again, what I would do different. Because I was going hard in the paint. I was going 100 miles an hour standing still, and I wasn't moving nothing.
Mm.
Being busy for the sake of being busy. And at the end of the day, it didn't help nobody. So, simple as answer is be better at being me.
Yes. Well, you can do you. Um, what are your goals for this current term that you're seeking?
I got two pieces of legislation I'd like to file.
Okay.
And then I would, one is for our first responders to, to create an avenue for them to get help with PTSD.
Okay.
You know, when you see destruction and death all day, sometimes it's tough to decompartmentalize what, you know, what it is you saw. And I see that firsthand. The other piece of legislation is uh, requiring uh, kids to go to kindergarten. Right now, it's an option. You don't have to go to school till you're in first grade. And the problem that I have with that is when you know better, you do better, right?
Right.
So the problem that I have with that is Brother Leggett, when I was a young fellow, we were really just competing against people reaching.
Hmm.
Your generation, you were competing against people, North America, Canada, America, South America. These young kids now are competing globally. You could do this podcast with somebody in China right now. And the quicker we get them started and get them moving, the better I think our kids will be.
I I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry. Um, but no, yeah, I truly feel you about now we're much more globally, and to your point, I uh have done podcasts with people in England, in Sweden. One a friend of mine who been on her show multiple times. Went on this past weekend. Like I said, she lives in Sweden. It's like 7 8 hours away or whatever. And just the you have people who complain about this so-called globalization, but I don't think that you can. I don't think that you can properly grow and not. I don't understand these people who want to grow, who want to continue to be America, to be a world leader and not interact with the world. You know what I'm saying? They want us to be a world leader, but they scoff at kids learning more than just English, as a language, or learning from different things from other places around the world who quite frankly has a better educational system than we do in regards to a lot of things. But and I to your also to your point about starting school earlier, I do remember this was years ago, seeing something about how it as far as at least when we're in competition with ourselves, and when I say ourselves, I mean within our own country, it is a thing kind of between like the half and half nots. That statistically it showed that communities or families that were able to send their kids to either preschool or kindergarten, those kids, kind of did better later on
Mm-hmm.
because they started earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They got in routine. They understood. They learned more. There's certain things that they got that people who started later didn't get. Once again, not because of lack of trying. It's like they just didn't have those resources. They just didn't have that knowledge, and we see that a lot now, with different things in school. Especially, I know it's brought up a lot with my generation. We millennials, we bring up the fact of how often there was some topic or subject that was really pushed to us in school, and then once we graduated, there's all these other things that we should have been learning about that was never touched, or was more as a what they say an elective. Uh, we we're pushed all different types of math, which not saying that math is not important. Of course, math is important. You should know math, but then we get out and we don't know how to do our taxes because there's never anything that's explained or taught. It's like there's something that we're going to have to do, but they say bypass that. Things with government. Most Americans don't have any idea about what actually goes on with the government, who's in what position, what do those people do, checks and balances, and even we think about when people say government, they think about the president, the House, the Senate, and we don't think about the lowercase. It's like there's all these different things that we are not properly educated on, and then it's not until we leave that place of education that we were hit in the face with all these things. It's like nobody even told me that this was a thing.
Well, your your state, you have a governor, lieutenant governor, you have an auditor, treasurer, secretary of state, you have 8 congressional seats, 2 Senate seats. You have 163 representatives and 34 senators. And they set policy and governance for the state. But your school district, the people that affect you right now, that set the tax policy and curriculum for the district. And your city council sets policy for the whole St. Louis County, for all of us. And if you don't understand the people that are set policy, then you could spend a whole bunch of time going up and down a rabbit hole. If you don't understand that the state of Missouri has absolutely nothing to do with setting policy for the school district, or your fire district, or who's in charge of planning and zoning, you know. So when you understand where to take the fight to, it'll keep you from swinging in the air. The part that I think sets me apart in this position is I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity to even be here. I grew up in Kinloch, and if you'd have told me that I'd be in this position, I'd have called you a lie to your face. But I'm here now. And the thing that I think sets me apart is my heart to want to help. I think the thing that sets me apart is I've been blessed so much. And there's nothing more that I want to do than share what God has blessed me. And if I do that, it would allow me to get closer to Him. And ultimately, that's what I would really like to do. That's what I want to do, is get closer.
I had one more thing I wanted to ask, and then I was going to let you go. First of all, before I even say that, thank you for, give me the time. I know you're really busy. Thank you for even allowing me to interview, to have this conversation for other people outside the area to get to know you, to get to hear you, to get to hear what you're about. I thank you for allowing me to for allowing me to use my platform to get to have this conversation. This is something that I've been thinking about, and I've seen other people do and talk about or discuss. And it is we all know, at least for the last, I'm not sure, it's been some decades, but the notion or the idea that black people mostly vote Democrat. That's been that way for a good number of years. The whole party switching thing and what have you. And the thing of, black people vote Democrats. We are a lot of black people, even if they are conservative on some issues, the overwhelming craziness from the vocal part of them kind of drives us away. The question I have for you is, do you feel that sometimes, and because I think about this because you mentioned us voting people in and them saying they're going to work for us and not doing anything, do you think sometimes that the Democratic Party or the Democratic establishment takes the black vote for granted?
I don't. No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't because it's tough to be taken for granted when a group of people don't even recognize your existence.
Mm.
It so it for me. Most of us vote Democrat because Republicans don't see us. I can't tell you the last time a Republican came to North County to campaign because it's like we don't exist.
They're not going to vote for us anyway, so why bother?
Why bother?
Yeah.
So, uh, and to be honest, do I think that as a whole the political system needs to be overhauled? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I vote. Me personally, I have voted for a lot of Republicans. I am conservative when it comes to my money. I am more liberal when it comes to social issues. You know, I just had a meeting this morning, and Defenders of Liberty, and we were talking about the restructuring of police,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Can you believe they want to do this? It's just crazy." And I said, "I'm going to just ask you a couple questions, and then you tell me what we should do." I am not a huge proponent of Black Lives Matter. I think I think the issues that they have, I love, but I think it has, as the money flowed in, it became more centered on them and not on us. That's me.
Mm-hmm.
But tell me the crime that Michael Brown committed. I'll wait. Tell me the crime that Tamir Rice committed. I can tell you that the young man, the terrorist that went into a black grocery store and killed black people, they arrested him. I can tell you they don't know how many people that Jeffrey Dahmer killed and ate, but they arrested him. Dylan Roof walked into Mother Emanuel Church, killed 9, and they arrested him. The guy that shot Congresswoman Gifford, shot a sitting Congresswoman in the head, killed 6 others, and they arrested him. The guy that walked in a Aurora movie theater on Batman night, killed 13, and they arrested him. Tell me again the crime that Michael Brown committed. Timothy McVeigh killed 232, injured 504 more. Tell me again the crime he committed. See, the only thing we're talking about is the way they stop you and the way they stop me. That's all we're talking about. And the heavy-handedness that they stop me with. And if I don't cross my T's and dot my I's the way they think I should, if they lucky, if I'm lucky, they won't call 6 more of their boys and they all give it to me. So the reason I don't know how we got to this vitriol point that we're at with politics. Because right now, I think that the Democrats are really left, and the Republicans are so far right you can't see them. And in order to get elected as a Republican right now, you got to be right of right. You have to be. You got to be. The people that we for first responders and for the police until a bill comes to help them, and they do nothing. We are pro-life. Well, no, you're not. I'm pro-life. You can't be pro-life and pro-death because you don't, as a pro-lifer, you don't get to choose what life you choose. Right?
I've had that same among many issues with their pro-life, pro-different things like that.
Well, because if life starts at conception, a pregnant woman should never be locked up because the baby that she's carrying didn't choose to be in prison. If that baby never had a choice, right?
Right.
So if you pro-life, then you ought to do everything you can to protect that baby's life. And prison ain't a good spot for them. So I don't know. I just think we got some work to do. How about that?
Yeah. I can go with that because that's.
Well, Brother Leg, I want to say thank you so much for
no problem.
Me. I really appreciate it, and thank you for carving out time on your day for me.
No, thank you. I was only here because of you. If you would be so inclined, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
You can email me at staylor_95@msn.com. My phone number is on all my stuff. It's 314-220-1407. If you wanted to donate to the campaign, you can send it to, you can make it out to Friends to Elect Sylvester Taylor, and you can send it to 12756 Orley Drive. That is in beautiful downtown Blackjack, Missouri, 63033.
All right. And you guys know you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at Bold Expressions, BLD Expressions, because they already took Bold. So that's BLD Expressions on both Twitter and Instagram. You can send me an email at boldexpressions4@gmail.com. You can hit me up on YouTube, Bold Expressions Podcast. You can find probably this, and as I said, my other short form podcasts, Random Thoughts on there. Find other older commercials I've done, things like that. I appreciate to my guests for getting up his time. As you guys always know, time is so important because you can never give it back. So whatever you spend your time on, it has to be important. So thank you to my guests, giving up his time. Thank you to the people who listen, who watch. Whenever you listen to this, watching, whenever you consume this content, I love you. Have a good day, good morning, good evening. And as always, don't be so busy proving your point that you forget your purpose.